When Apple released the iPhone 11 Pro, the meaning of the word Pro was questionable. But now it's round two, a second chance to prove that the Pro iPhone really is professional. So now that it's out and I've been using it in my pocket for the better part of a month, the question of worth, is this phone worth it? I think it's harder to answer this year than ever before. So it was high time for Apple to update the design of the iPhone. Talked about the design a lot in our iPhone 12 review, and I'll link it in all the usual places if you want to go back and watch that. Similar design language to the iPhone 4, the iPhone 5. It's squared off. You've got the stainless steel on the bands on the side, the frosting on the back, and the new ceramic coating on the screen. It looks and feels really nice. And while the stainless steel makes the phone feel really nice, I was shocked at how nasty it looked as soon as I picked it up. But I don't have like gross, I don't think I have gross hands at least, but it just looked like a smudgy fingerprint mess. That aside, I absolutely love how the iPhone 12 Pro feels in the hands. It has weight to it. So the screen, it is a 6.1 inch display here, so it's gotten bigger than last year's. So I still maintain that these phones should have had 120 hertz, or at the very least a 90 hertz, something better than 60, and it's a month later, it's still a tough pill to swallow, but I've kind of numbed to it a little bit and gotten used to it. And the display for what you get, even for a 60 hertz display, is still amongst the best out there. Blacks look super black, colors are bright and vibrant, blah, 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 all that stuff you expect. But I do think for the price point that it probably was a miss from Apple. It's something I can think you can count on being in the iPhone 13. So once you get past the new design and start to look to the cameras, you can see just the confusion with the iPhone 12 series. So on the lower end, you've got the iPhone 12, which shares the same cameras from the iPhone 12 Pro, but the 12 Pro adds a telephoto camera. However, that's the same from last year. But then you've got the iPhone 12 Pro Max, which has a completely new camera system. So the iPhone 12 Pro isn't the same Pro as the Max, and in a lot of ways, it's the same as the regular 12. It's just confusing. So now all that stuff kind of done. The cameras that you are getting in the 12 Pro though are still very good and do a lot of stuff that is new for this year. There are 3 cameras on the back. The ultra wide and the telephoto are the same as last year's 11 Pro, but the main shooter, that wide one, has changed. So it now has an f1.6 aperture. It's gonna let in around 30% more light, which is gonna help you with low light, and that's always nice to have. And there's also a LiDAR scanner that's built in. So all 3 cameras, while most of them remain the same hardware-wise, they do get new software features. So all of them now shoot Smart HDR3 and also support for Apple's Deep Fusion, which is nice to have. And also there's night mode support built into every single camera on there as well. In practice, and as you can see, the differences from last year are, let's say, subtle. Smart HDR still does, I think, an awesome job of balancing the highlights and the shadows. And then Deep Fusion makes a big difference in those lower light scenarios. And I think night mode is still one of the better implementations in all of mobile. But I think this area is probably where you'll see the biggest difference from past years, especially on the ultra wide. So you can see the differences. They are subtle compared to last gen's 11 Pro, but anything older than that, you're gonna start to see huge differences in what these cameras can do. And pretty much every shot that you take with the iPhone 12 Pro looks some version of good or awesome. It takes effort to screw up a shot. And I tried, but still those ones I tried to mess up ended up still looking really decent. But from what I've seen, the photos out of the iPhone 12 Pro are really similar to the big brother, the 12 Pro Max, which I think makes the 12 Pro the perfect middle ground, as you kind of expect between what you get with the iPhone 12 line and what you get with the giant one, the 12 Pro Max. LiDAR is here. We saw it make its debut on the iPad Pro, and this is an interesting one. I kind of look at the LiDAR like oil in an engine. You don't always think about it, but when it's not there, I think you're gonna notice it. And you can see the benefit of LiDAR when it comes to focus and also when it comes to night mode. It kind of emits its own light and then it bounces back. Things tend to generally look better in night mode with LiDAR. Now, whether that's a reason or not for you to buy the phone, only you, friend, can answer that. There are other questionable utility features here as well. Things for AR and fun party tricks of measuring people's heights. If you're not doing a lot of night mode shooting, I don't think it necessarily makes a ton of sense right now, but the potential is there for what LiDAR could eventually build into. Video is another really important component, and Apple has done an amazing job with video on their iPhones pretty much since they started recording video. But there are a lot of pro level features that you get now with the iPhone 12 Pro. The highlight, I think, is Dolby Vision HDR. And the fact that that's happening on a phone, I think shows how powerful the A14 chip is and how much processing can actually be done on device. And what you're gonna get with Dolby Vision HDR is the stuff that I guess that you would expect, right? You're gonna get really dark blacks, you'll get nice highlights, you'll get poppy colors. You can noticeably see a difference, even if you can't tangibly say what they are. They just look better on your phone. And it's not really that useful. It looks great on your phone, but if you're going to share video really anywhere, it's gonna look like it's just a messed up, sort of overexposed mess. Sometimes on Twitter, sometimes on Instagram, you don't really know how those platforms are going to take that format in. Most TVs, if you watch your content back there, can't show it. Even the Apple TV itself, you have to do weird settings to get it to show. While it looks awesome on your phone, I want to reiterate, if you're gonna share any of this stuff, you're gonna have to turn it off. Now that's the fault of the apps and third parties, not Apple, but it still makes you question the utility of it right now. That Dolby Vision things was like the marquee feature, but what I'm giving Apple a slow clap for is 10-bit color, and it has gone crazy under the radar. So we obviously shoot a lot of video here, and oftentimes we sort of interlace video we shoot with our smartphones with our studio cameras, because it's easier to sort of be mobile with a phone. And most phones shoot what's called 8-bit, and that gives you like about 16 million different colors that you can play with and tweak. And for the most part, it's pretty good. But for comparison, 10-bit, again, which is in the iPhone 12 Pro, gives you billions of colors. So where that matters is in the editing process, where you have more control over tweaking the colors, and especially trying to get them to match the studio cameras. It's not something that everybody's going to care about, but as a creator who's making a lot of videos, it is a very welcome change, and why I think a lot of people who really don't care about OS at all would probably gravitate to the iPhone, because it's now become a really capable video camera in your pocket. I almost feel like performance sections on iPhone reviews are relatively unnecessary, so I'm gonna make it extra short. Surprise, everybody, it's the fastest iPhone Apple's ever made, obviously. It's the A14 chip in here. It is extremely capable. You also now have 6 gigs of RAM as opposed to 4 from last year. I don't think most people are gonna notice any difference at all, at least initially, between the A13 and 4 gigs of RAM versus the 14 and 6, but if you keep your phone for 3 or 4 years, you will notice that difference. The headroom you get with the newest iPhone is significant. It'll last you probably a year longer than last gen's. This is still the best performing phone that I've ever tested. I mean, Apple Silicon is so far ahead of the competition, it's not even close. And if the end user experience is what matters, you're going to get the fastest sort of phone with the iPhone 12 Pro. And if benchmarked with what you care about, it's still gonna benchmark faster than anything else from the competition. 5G is like a big thing that's happening. I think for most flagship phones coming out in 2020 and 21, it's an important feature to have. I'm still kind of shocked though that Apple did it. Again, usually they're not that early when it comes to technology. And while the iPhone is ready for 5G, I'm not really sure that 5G is ready for the iPhone or any phone out there. Now, I can't speak to your carrier, where you live, and your experience with 5G. It's going to vary widely across the board, but it does support both flavors of 5G. One is ultra wideband, which is like the stupid fast speeds that you see, getting 2,000 or 3,000 down, but you gotta be standing in a particular area and nothing can block it. It's fun to have. It's, I think, less useful. What most people are going to experience 5G with is, it's called sub-6. It's what gets through walls and is more useful. And that's where you start to see the potential future of 5G. In my experience, It's been sometimes fast in LTE, sometimes not. And I think your experience with 5G is going to be somewhere in between there. Sometimes it's fast, sometimes it's not. It'll get better over the years. Apple's doing some stuff though on the back end to improve that. It's a smart switching type technology where they decide if you really need the 5G speeds, and then they'll turn it on for you and turn it off to save battery life, which in one aspect is good. On the other side, I personally would like to know if your phone shows 5G and Apple decides you don't need it and is using LTE instead, your phone is going to still show 5G. You can turn it off and always use 5G. I did have a bit of a battery hit. It was about 2 to 3 hours less battery life that I got. Overall, I've been surprisingly impressed with battery life, and I was not coming in expecting great things. With a smaller milliamp hours than last year, it's 2815 now, plus 5G did not seem like a recipe for awesomeness, but software tweaks and I'm guessing processor efficiencies, it's getting about 5-ish hours of screen on time. I still had 25% of my battery left. That's pretty good for me. Now, it's not the best out there. It's not industry leading by any stretch of the imagination. I imagine the 12 Pro Max will be much better, but it's a dayer, and I don't have to worry about battery life to get through a day. I can charge it at night, but if you're concerned about how it's going to work with efficiency, you should be okay. If you decide to switch that auto 5G off and have 5G on all the time, no, you should get about a 10 to 13% hit in battery life, at least in my experience. So the iPhone 12 Pro is a solid update from the iPhone 11 Pro, and especially over anything that came before that. But the main issue with 12 Pro, isn't the iPhone 12 Pro, it's giant brother, the 12 Pro Max. It's a phone that I am much more excited about, and I think take the Pro name to what it should be. And maybe that's the phone that's right for you, but I don't think a lot of people are that jazzed to carry a 6.7-inch device in their pocket to get the bigger sensor and to get the more zoom. And when you look at the iPhone 12 Pro next to the iPhone 12, the only differences aside from RAM is the telephoto and the materials, and it's hard to recommend the Pro over the 12. And in a vacuum, just evaluating the 12 Pro on its own, it is an awesome phone and probably the perfect choice for most people. But like in a real world test where the 12 exists and the Max is a phone that's either out or coming depending when you're watching this, it almost seems like the 12 Pro is kind of forgotten. It's the metal version of the iPhone 12 with an extra camera and some tweaks. Whether that's worth the extra $200 for you, I don't know, but it makes me think more and more that the iPhone 12 and not the 12 Pro is a perfect iPhone for almost everybody.